You wake up to a beautiful morning to make it your day. You stand in front of mirror, do the self-affirmation that today is the day that I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna show it to the world that this is my day and I'm gonna seize it. You leave your home, go to office, sit in the meeting room, bam, you forgot everything. Because all you did not practice is the ability of mastering yourself, your ability to talk at ease, your ability to communicate effectively and confidently. That's what we're going to dive into today in this Pep Talk India's podcast. And I have here with me Rocky Saggoo.
Yes, I think that what you've just explained, this used to happen to me. So I was practicing day in, day out, standing in front of the mirror. Since all the motivation speakers told me, stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself you are the best. Then I thought, okay, I'm the best. Let's go back and sleep, right? But okay, jokes apart, but yeah. This was a common problem. Like I was a terrible conversationalist, and whether I was dating or going for an interview or trying to sell a few things to the people, they were saying, you are boring, man. You are mundane. It is so monotonous when you talk. So they were running away. How to fix it? That was my question back then. And the same question I have right now. How to fix it?
But you are already amazing conversationalist. Why don't you answer that question?
I would like to think so. I'm an amazing conversationalist, but I believe that there's a lot to learn. Since yesterday only you were having a session with a few people where you were talking about how to be an amazing conversationalist, man. So why don't you start first?
I'm just
Then
an
I'm going to
observer.
dive in. You are just an observer.
I observe people like you and then I make my points and I convey that to the world.
So what is the biggest mistake people do while having a conversation?
They assume everything in advance.
Yes, they assume everything in advance, yes. And there's this common problem these days, like many people are getting interested in dating and all. That's why many dating coaches are minting money. So when they go and try to date a girl, they tell themselves, man, I have to be an interesting conversationalist. But they forget, they don't have to be an interesting conversationalist. They have to be interested in the conversation.
Absolutely. You made a really, really amazing point in here that you don't have to be an interesting conversationalist. You just have to be genuinely interested in the person you're talking to.
Right.
And that's where it all begins.
Right.
So as you just mentioned, you used to be an awkward conversationalist. You used to be a talker who wouldn't be sure of what he's going to say.
Right.
And now we see you, Rocky 2.0. Now, what changed? Because everybody knows, people who are listening to you, they all know that if you talk to someone, you're going to hook them for hours and hours and hours. How do you do that?
Okay, number one, we have just discussed, right? You have to be genuinely interested in the conversation and don't try to perform here. Like adapt to a new role. And the role is to explore. So what does an explorer do? Explorer ask. Explorer is curious. So that's what you're supposed to do. Like explore the conversation by asking right sort of questions. That was number two. Number three, of course, stories. Stories hook people. We humans have been storytellers and it's been ages. So I started telling stories, but before that, I introspected, retrospected. I told myself enough is enough. I chose my role models, like people who were better speakers, who were having amazing conversationalists, who were having amazing conversations. So I made the notes. Okay, this is what they're doing. This is what they are not doing. And these are my flaws. So let's fix it brick by brick. That's how I started.
Oh, lovely to hear that. So one has to be good at telling story in order to engage, okay? But before the engagement happens, right, it is the way they dive into the conversations. What are the few tips that you have for those who never start the conversation?
I think they should start. I recently shot a video where I was talking about situational awareness, right? So there I was sharing my incident, like I went to Tim Horton. So this Canadian coffee shop.
Yeah, it has made a lot of buzz lately.
Yes, so I wanted to try their coffee. I said, okay, let's go and try the coffee. And so I was confused about the coffees, right? There were many things, cappuccino, latte, and there were so many things. So there was this young lady I asked, could you help me out? Like, first, before that, I asked her, have you been here before? She said, yes, okay. That was my opportunity to start a conversation. So I asked her about, okay, could you help me out with the selection? She said, yes, okay. She explained me what is so different about Tim Horton. So I think situational awareness has helped me a lot.
Okay, but very interestingly, I noticed here that you said, I asked a lady, a beautiful lady standing right there. Now, most people would not strike conversation, would not even think of striking conversation with a beautiful lady in the cafe. They would rather go to a guy who might be serving water. Or the
Yes.
guy who's cleaning around, right?
Right.
So, in order to be a good conversationalist, in order to be a conversationalist who can strike any kind of conversation,
Right.
one has to have the courage. How to get that courage to ask that beautiful lady in the house?
You know, you only learn swimming by diving into the pool, right? So there's no tip or trick here to have a courage or to muster the courage. I think one has to take initiative, and once you take initiative, then you say you give a pat on your back. You say, oh my God, I've done it, right? Then next time you feel better. So I think my suggestion here is take initiative. In the beginning, we all get nervous.
Right.
And but by the way, that was a good observation when you said that you went to this beautiful lady, and people, they go to servers, right?
Right.
Excuse me, could you help me out? But yeah, one has to have courage.
Beautiful lady has to be the last on the planet to be asked in such case, right?
Yeah, you're
Or
absolutely right.
I would rather go home back, money in my pocket, rather than striking conversation with a beautiful lady. After that, in that all fear, the knot in my stomach, I'm going to spend money for that? Oh, no, that's not going to
I
happen.
would never ever go to Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
I was saying the same thing earlier, but back then there was no Tim Horton. They were
Tim Cook.
Tim Cook. Yes, Tim Cook, yes. So, like, being genuinely interested in the conversation, like be an observant, like you've just observed what I was trying to say. And what else can be there for our listeners, for our viewers?
Well, in order to talk to anyone at ease, what I truly think, most people go empty-handed in the conversation.
Right,
They go clueless in the conversation.
right,
They think about everything else than the conversation they are going to
Right.
hold. The very first primary suggestion that I give to all the students in classroom, that before you say that I don't have confidence, why don't you ask yourself one basic questions: what am I gonna talk about?
right.
So as you said, there are people who want to date others, right? So I mean, purpose is already fixed in here, right? That I'm going to date someone, which means I want to make a great impression.
Right.
That first impression. I'm going to go in the meeting, let's say in an interview, the purpose is already intact right there, that I'm going to make great first impression so that I can be hired. I'm going to meet my old friends and acquaintances. Purpose is clear. We're going to have
Right.
great fun. So most people, I believe, they go empty-handed, loose-headed in the conversation. I say, just make a small commitment to yourself. In one sentence, ask yourself, or at least remember, what are you going to strike this conversation for?
Right, right,
That does help.
right. That does help. As the lady spoke, like, don't go empty-handed. Like, have something in your bag, right? Prepare beforehand.
Absolutely.
But I've also observed that when the conversation is going on, like, people are thinking about something else. They do not pay attention.
They're thinking about what I'm going to say next.
Yes, exactly. So they do not pay attention. So when you are not in the moment, you cannot have a good conversation.
Not possible.
Right.
Impossible. You are in the moment only then you observe. You are in the moment only then when you know how to reciprocate that.
Right.
You are in the moment only then you know what direction I'm going to take this conversation.
Right.
Unless nothing is possible, all you're going to have is that two people staring at each other, trying to pass that weird and wicked smile, and then thinking, oh my God, when this person is going to drop dead, or me, please, for God's sake. Now, if you don't want that to happen, as you just said, that one has to be there in the moment to hear, listen. If you don't understand, ask, reciprocate, and then obviously repeat. And that's when what I think comes handy, the idea of mirroring.
Right.
If you're not somebody who is very talkative, you're not somebody who can go on making great conversations, I suggest go mirror the talk.
Right.
So if the person that you are in conversation with says something, there is anything that that your thoughts are aligned with, or you find it common, speak that, repeat it, even if it is just a gesture, like somebody just pulling the sleeves up. I would rather do that to duplicate it, to make it feel like I'm here with
Yes.
you in the conversation.
Yes. Mirroring is a good idea, and summarizing is also a good idea, right? When you summarize
Right.
the conversation for the other person, like what he or she has just talked about, you make them feel good.
Absolutely.
You make them feel special. They say, oh wow, like the person is actually listening to me properly. So I think that kind of creates a good impression. What do you say?
Absolutely, it does.
So like you asked me that how did I improve as a conversationalist? What about you? Like, Nation wants to know your story. Although I'm not Arnab Goswami, but
So his nation or our nation, that depends.
our nation, not his nation. His nation is different.
If his nation, then I'm gonna be just do
His,
Jabberwocky.
his nation is self-created nation. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, let's not
Get into
rant
that.
about him. Yes.
Then we're just trying to prove that we are better conversationalists when we're doing that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're gonna tell to the world like what changed you. I was mirroring
Plenty
Arnab
of-
Goswami. You just said mirroring,
Plenty
right?
of things. But one of which, I mean, there's one story that strikes me in here that I think could be really, really beneficial for all the listeners in here. So once I was watching this, the interview where it was a clip of so many different actresses talking about their co-actor
Right.
and how did they like to work with them. And I was really hooked to the screen when I heard 4 different actresses from different generations speaking the same name again and again, right? I was glued to the screen. I was like, what is happening? So there was Rani Mukherjee from Rekha to, I mean, there were 3-4 more from new to old. And they were asked, out of all the co-stars that they have worked with, whom did they like the most and would like to work again and made them feel special? Everybody said Shah Rukh Khan. I thought, why? Is it my glasses that I'm not wearing? Or it is they don't wear the glasses? And then there was this one sentence that somebody spoke during that interview that said, she was asked, why Shah Rukh? Everybody says Shah Rukh. She said, he has a way to make you feel special.
Right.
Now, he doesn't deliver a monologue to people. He talks, right? On set, off set, making people, building relation with them. And not just female, but the lady co-stars, but also so many other people from the industry. They all say Shah Rukh Khan makes you feel special. Now, this word special took me away. I was like, what do you mean by making someone feel special in the conversation? I realized giving them time
Right.
to speak about themselves. There's nobody on the planet who doesn't love to speak about themselves and being heard.
100%. People like to talk about themselves.
And Shah Rukh
for
Khan
sure.
does this masterfully.
Right.
He listens to you, being glued to you, as if, oh my God, he has been waiting for this day forever. And he asks you questions which allow you to speak about yourself and get comfortable and like that person.
Right.
And I believe that's what I try to do. That's what I have been trying to do. To let people answer questions about themselves, and just be glued to them.
Right. Absolutely. I met this guy, and what you have just said about Shah Rukh Khan, he was doing the same. So I was talking about myself, and he was trying to deep dive by asking about my passion, my hobbies. So he kind of gave me an impression that he is a great listener.
He's interested
So
in you.
I felt special. That's what Shah Rukh Khan does. He makes people feel special. I was in a fashion show where Shah Rukh Khan basically entered. So I was busy somewhere else, but people started, shouting Shah Rukh, Shah Rukh. So everybody was talking about one guy, Shah Rukh. The moment he entered in the scenario, I looked at him. I said, what's so special about this guy? He doesn't look that handsome. But the moment he started speaking, right, the moment he started talking, he's witty, his sense of humor, and you have rightly mentioned, the way he makes people feel, If you can make people feel special in the conversations, right, you do not have to impress them. Simply make them feel special and they'll talk to you. They will love talking to you. What do you say? And you have rightly mentioned.
Yeah. In fact, that is why there are so many great proverbs. The one proverb which says that What you do to people, they'll forget. What you say to people, they forget. But how you make them feel is never, ever, ever forgotten.
Right. What goes around comes around.
So
Huh?
it is the feeling that takes you farther. So in order to become a great conversationalist, or let's say an amazing to begin with,
Right.
you ought to be making sure that ideas that we have been discussing in here should come handy by practicing one by one. Remember, we don't have to climb the mountain Everest in one go.
Absolutely.
We gotta be going pebble by pebble, stone by stone. That is how we're gonna reach where we're gonna reach, The utmost ability of making great conversation begins with simple questions. What is your story? That's where we all begin.
What is your story? In fact, I've also observed, like you've just mentioned, interesting speakers throughout the history, like Benjamin Franklin. So he has had this, knack of creating a rapport with people. What he was doing while he was talking to people, and he wanted to, create an impression. He wanted to persuade or cajole or maneuver. He was always asking for help. In the middle of conversation, oh, could you help me out? Now others were mesmerized. Oh my God, Benjamin Franklin is asking for help.
Yeah.
He's such a wonderful guy. Right. So that was his move to build a rapport. Now Napoleon understood that we humans are driven because of three things: pain, fear, and self-interest. So he was using all these strategies to persuade people, to influence them. And that's what Shah Rukh Khan does. He makes people feel special. So throughout the history, we are seeing a common pattern here. Make people feel special.
Remember, a good conversation is like freshly brewed coffee in the morning before office.
Right.
And that can happen only when you believe in the fact that you're going to make other people feel special.
Right.
Whomsoever you talk to. Having said that, there are three techniques that I notice you basically use when you talk to people. And when you talk to people, you make small conversation, small talk, a big conversation. And usually that ends up into thank you. It was wonderful talking to you. Now, how do you do that is, of course, is all your secret. But what I notice is that you ask a very little negative question. I mean, little to no.
Right.
You ask a lot of positive question. Now, that allows an individual to feel comfortable.
Right.
And you talk about them so too much that they end up forgetting the world around them. They remember they are the one in the conversation and they are the only one.
Right.
And third thing you do is you ask a lot of SRT, situational reaction questions. Now, situational reaction questions can do two things. The one can make people feel jittery and run away and feel anxious, or feel the goosebumps and okay, voila, let's just get into it. Let me do something interesting today. Or if those SRT questions is somewhat about the futuristic approach or about my future, let's say, I would rather love to be in that future and assume what's happening and then talk to you. And I would feel like for a moment, you took me where I dreamed to be. Why not? I'm going to say, what a wonderful conversation. Right? So these three things you often do. Do you do it purposefully?
Well, I'm learning from the masters. Benjamin Franklin, Steve Jobs, Napoleon, Shah Rukh Khan, you have mentioned. I don't know whether I do it purposefully or not, but I actually am genuinely interested if I talk to someone.
That's the key.
Right.
You gotta be genuinely interested in people.
Right.
Having said that, are we gonna go towards the end so that they can apply all these ideas that we have just discussed? The tips and techniques.
100%. So next time when you leave your home, tuck, tuck, tuck.
Remember the three questions you might want to ask.
Yes.
Remember what's the occasion.
Yes.
Remember, no, not you. Somebody else is special in your conversation. And then be genuinely interested, right?
Be genuinely interested.
And if you want to know more about what situation you should be talking in what manner, okay, how much of smile is too much of smile and how less smile is too less smile, you got to ask those questions in the comment right?
section. Yes. Yes.
Or whatever you ask, we all right there to answer your question. You might think of 100 problem, we have solution of 1,000.
Oh, yes.
So you got to ask for it.
Ask. Do let us know in the comment section and sing Kumbaya.
Bye-bye.